All right, guys, we are back and going to finish up our little keychain, and this time the focus will be on adding an image, but not by just kind of putting an image there. So I have for us in our Canvas LMS, I have some black and white, kind of easy to work with logos, pictures. So I kind of did a Google search looking for I had our school logo, but I've converted it to only black and white because our logo really has some gray in there to make it simpler. Otherwise, I looked for black and white bold images, like I just put wrestling, volleyball, whatever, and got some images that are going to work to demonstrate this technique. So you could download these files and have them on your computer, but you don't actually need to. Nice thing if you're on the Windows machine that LightBurn's on, you can simply, from the LMS, just right-click and say Copy Image, head over to your LightBurn project and right-click and say Paste. And it comes in much bigger, but we'll just resize this. All right, so here's what we're going to do. This is just an image. So the only thing that the laser can do with an image, we don't have many choices, is it really just sees if it should fire the laser or not fire the laser. Okay, and it does like a fill pattern. It doesn't see edges. What it does, think of like mowing the grass. It's going to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth with a very, very thin little lawnmower, right? So it takes many, many passes of going back and forth and having the laser kind of turn on, turn off, turn back on, turn off, and it goes through and scans this. Okay, and so that would be, like right here, just says image. So we're going to turn this into geometry of lines and shapes that we can control. And so that's way better. And that's one of the really cool things that we can do in here. So with the image selected, we're going to come up to Tools, and then you will find Trace Image. Now with Trace Image, you have a keyboard shortcut, Alt-T, you could use as well. We're going to turn that on, and this picture works really good right off the bat because it's already a nice kind of black and white image. So this definitely simplifies kind of what this really can be. But let me kind of tweak some things and help you understand a little bit. So I'm going to first, a couple tools that are helpful, I'm going to fade the image, make it a little easier to see what's getting generated. The purple lines are what's getting generated by LightBurn. And I can also turn on Show Points, help me see kind of where the points are at. All right, well this is clearly not great, that I'm kind of not getting the whole edge and just getting all these little stray little markings, right? Well, what Onshape's doing is it's looking at every single pixel, and it's looking for a contrast, a change in pixel. It uses kind of two thresholds. So they call it cutoff and threshold, but one's kind of on the dark side and one's on the light side. And so as we move these, it changes where it's picking up those colors. Okay. Sometimes we actually really need to play around with these to kind of get it to start to get the regions we want and not get other regions. With this, you saw from the beginning, it didn't really need to do that. It's kind of grabbing what I want. So I'm kind of making it sound more difficult than it is. But you know what? I do see that. I don't know what that is. I don't want that little stray mark, right? So here's another helpful thing, is if I don't want to get all these little teeny things like that, I can type in a value here, ignore less than. And I'm going to put like 50 or 100. And that, whoa, I didn't mean to. Let me undo. Let me go back. Trace image. I'll kind of scoot that up again a little bit. So when that was at 0, that was still there? Yep. All right. I didn't mean to hit. I guess you can't hit Enter to accept that. It just does it. So let's see. Fade, show points, but that'll ignore anything that's too small. Okay. So it says ignore anything less than 100. I believe that's pixels. So that can help, and you can test like how big or small it needs to be. If you go too big, right, you could start to lose stuff that you wanted. Right now, I lost the eyeball. If I'm at 500, I don't want to lose the eyeball. So, right, just trial and error. You figure out, kind of what those sizes are. All right, next up is smoothness and optimize. And honestly, this looks pretty good, but this might have to do with kind of where the corners are. And so you could try playing around with these lines, or these numbers, and seeing if, like there, I just got that one changed enough that instead of this being just a curve here on the top, it went ahead and added another point and made that a sharper corner. And I don't know if I keep going, if it'll do that to the bottom too. Yep. So perhaps you'll get a little bit more sharpness if you turn down the smoothing factor, right? If you're really wanting to get in. But sometimes going too low, you think, oh, I'm just going to put that on that, and it'll get exactly what I want. Well, then you can run into some other issues as well, that you just have to play with every image and kind of look and see what's going on, okay? Let me see. The other thing I can do, is just kind of drag a box. I was like, do I have to do something special? I think this is it. And when you drag a box, it just kind of shades out a certain area that will get traced. So you don't have to trace an entire image too. If you want just one part of an image that you're trying to get vectorized, you can do that. Maybe if I just want just the LE and the light bulb, and now maybe I kind of have to go over and get that, but I can delete some things after I do that. So once I get the generated thing. So that's pretty cool, the fact that you can put a box and just get a certain area. So once you're done, you're going to say OK, and it looks like not much happened, right? But what we're going to do is we're going to drag this image off to the side, and now you're going to see behind it is these lines. And so now we can select different pieces of this if we ungroup it. It automatically becomes grouped. So if you click any one of the features, everything's selected. But if I click on it and I come up to my people and I make them individual components, okay, now I can choose, say, just the eye or just this one path, right? So I can start to change what's going to happen. With this, the outer line, maybe I would want it to follow and cut. We'll see. Okay. So let me get rid of the image. I don't need that anymore. And let me grab this, and I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. I've got a rotate button. Instead of trying to manually do it and making it hard to snap to 90, although, good old Control Shift probably help us do something like that. Let's see, if I hold down Shift, it seems to go in increments. I bet those are 15 degrees. Let me see how many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. So 90 divided by 6, 15. So it's kind of going in 15-degree increments. I was kind of curious. What does Control do? Control, it's still kind of smoothly turning. Maybe it's smoother. No, actually, I think it's smoother without Control. Control, I think, makes it kind of ratchet in smaller increments, but still increments. So either Control or Shift should help you identify kind of exactly where 90 is versus if you don't hold one of those down, it might be hard to get exactly 90, but I want it to go this way. But the other way I could have done that is, okay, I could select it and I can use this 90 or this rotate value, and I can rotate it there. So cool. All right, so everything is not selected. Be careful here. I get everything. I'm going to size it down. I don't know if I've got I'm just going to kind of do this to the eye. I want it to fit this orientation. And let me group it again for just a second. And then I'm going to choose the rectangle second, and I'm going to center this, align the centers. All right, oh man, I was close. Okay. Now I will ungroup and possibly change some things, but let's see. So I'm going to choose, so this we haven't started yet. Basically, how do I control what they call layers? How do I control the engraver to know what to do on geometry? So like this outer edge, I would like it to cut. How we do that is through the use of color coding. So we have all these colors, and there's numbers on them, so we have to kind of call them different layers, okay? So I would like that stuff for the laser to move along and to make a cut, all right? Number one, how we do that is we tell it that geometrically we want it to follow the lines as opposed to fill the inside. Now that doesn't ensure that it's going to cut. The second part of that, making it cut, is the power and speed settings. So the laser itself can fire at different powers. You see there's a max min power level and there's a speed. So if the laser is moving too fast, even if it's at a high power, it's just going to go right over the material and not ever spend enough time to cut all the way through. So for the balsa, or not balsa wood, the little plywood we're using, we're going to cut at about 20 millimeters per second. Sometimes going slower, I don't know, I'll back up that and not even say. So let's just say about 20, and I'm going to use a max power of 35 and maybe a min power slightly lower of 30. I know that's not a big difference, but min power, what that does is as the laser has to kind of slow down because it's changing directions, especially if it's in a corner, it can't move at a steady, consistent pace everywhere. It has to move somewhere, stop, turn, go a different direction. And so the laser is kind of speeding up and slowing down. And as it's slowing down, it's actually spending more time. And if the power doesn't have the ability to reduce a little bit, you'll just get more energy and you can get more burning marks and stuff. So anyway, just planting the seed of how that works. All right, so we set those parameters to that layer. For the name here, I've got that in black. Let's leave that in black. Black is set to a much faster speed. So 100 is fine. I'm going to change the max power actually down to like 12, even lower, 12 and 8. So we're going to give it a much lower values for power level at a speed of 100. And that is also set to line. So it's not going to shade or color in the inside, but it'll just kind of follow the geometry, okay? And write that out. Here's the cool thing. You can hit preview. There's a preview button right here. This looks like a TV or a monitor. And then you can hit play, and it will show you, and you can control the speed if you really kind of want to watch and think about the laser moving, but it'll show the resulting output. You can pay attention to the order that it's doing everything. That's important. Often we wouldn't want to cut out the final shape until after we've done all the inside stuff. So, okay, so that's kind of cool. You can see all that. And you can zoom in so you can see exactly. So right now it's just going to draw our logo. But what if we wanted it to actually shade some areas? So I'm going to select all of that and change the color to blue, a color I haven't used yet. And then I'm going to change where it says line to fill. All right? And let's just go ahead and preview right now and just see kind of how that changed the preview. So the preview, right, let's play it. Might change the order of what went first. Okay, so now you can see what the engraver is doing. It's going back and forth. It's so cool how you can zoom way in and really see that. The engraver actually will have some thickness to the beam. So the spacing of these lines is going to help to create an effect. Okay, you know, kind of, if you have them real close overlapping, it's like going over it multiple times, and if you space them out too far, it's going to miss areas. But that's a parameter we won't get into right now, but it's literally just going to kind of drive along. You're not going to see lines if we've got things dialed in right. It should hopefully look a little more even. Okay, but it's going to go just, ooh, that's a really fast speed, just back and forth, turning on and turning off. So like the black lines are where it's firing and the white is where it's not. We can say turn on transversal moves where you can see the path, but the red now shows everywhere the laser goes, and only the black is where the laser is firing. Okay, so all right, what if you wanted this image to be inverted? So the black you wanted white and the white you wanted black. How could you do that? Okay, so a quick, easy thing you could do for that would be to take the outer shape. Remember, it's ungrouped again, so I can get just that outer geometry. And I can use a tool that I have not yet shown, which is an awesome tool called Offset. So I can click Offset, and then I can change the value here. This is, I think in millimeters probably, but maybe if I can get even closer, I can, oh, I didn't mean to hit accept quite yet. So maybe I want to get that in like really tight, especially because of this area. But I could create that offset, and basically it's just going to alternate regions, fill, kind of gets filled and white, filled white. And so that should invert by just adding that one extra line. So let's hit preview and see if that did what I expected. I also could have deleted the most outer line, and that would have inverted the leftovers. But now you can see the L, the E, the lightning bolt is black, and so anyway, just that's a way to manipulate the outcome of what you're going to get. It also might change how much time it's going to take, so you get an estimate right here of time. So this says it's going to take about 50 seconds. I don't know if that really had a big difference with that extra line or not, so maybe if I tried deleting that and previewing that, if there was a big difference in time. No, 48 seconds. So this is not a very long thing because it's a pretty small piece and we don't have a lot scanning. But there you go. So I think I've hit on all of the key things that I wanted to for this video. So we now know how to bring an image in, how to trace it, even showed it the offset tool. The offset tool is pretty cool. Maybe while we're just here and just mention that, maybe even show like you can take this whole text group and turn on offset. And it's going to start to offset the edges you have. And I can zoom in and out here. It's not zooming out, sorry, but I can use my mouse. And so I can start getting those things to offset. So if you go big enough, you could kind of get like a cloud bubble around a text box, which is kind of cool. So if you go too small, they're going to start to disjoint into different pieces, but big enough and it all kind of groups together in one big offset. So anyway, that offset tool can be used just about on almost any shape. So very cool. If you're adding borders, you want an extra line, you kind of cut on the outside, but then draw a line or a border on the inside. That is pretty great. All right, so maybe the last thing, did it actually make that? No. There's some optimization for sending to the engraver itself, and that is over here, optimization settings. And so it seems like LightBurn's current download that we have, that the defaults don't have everything off, that they've already got some things on for us, and so that's good. They have reduced travel moves turned on, which is good, and they have cut inner shapes first on. So we really want those to be on. We don't want to spend a lot of time doing travel moves, that just waste time, but right, we're trying to let it find its efficient way to cut everything. And then we really want to cut inner shapes first. If you cut the outer shape, the piece can come detached from the bigger piece of stock, and then it has the freedom to move and shake and vibrate. And so while you're cutting and scanning everything else on that object's not held still anymore. It could be moving around, and so that can really mess up what you're going to get. All right, and then there was one other thing that I'm trying to for fill. I don't know if it's in here. Yes, okay. So I had to remember where it was for a second. Thankfully I remembered. I'm learning all this myself. So on the layer that you might fill, okay, under advanced, there is a flood fill button, and that usually, this is already such a small thing, it's not going to make a big difference, but that can really save time in having the engraver find a efficient way to fill areas. And I can show you an example of that, but I don't know that that's going to change. In fact, in this one, it made it longer, which is kind of funny. But let's try to illustrate this. Okay, with that is blue, and so blue is fill, and let's preview. Oh, you know what? So, okay, flood fill, I just had it in my head wrong. It's doing exactly what I want, actually. So I guess flood fill needs to be off, or on. Let's see. No. I turned it on, right? Yeah, okay, that's right. Yeah, on is what I want. Let me turn it off and go back into the preview, and you can see the laser is going to travel. It's going to do this whole thing left to right. It kind of goes all the way across the engraver, whether it's got a fill or not. And so it can take a long time. Look at that, 42 minutes, because it's going back and forth. It spends a lot of time traveling where it's not actually burning. And so we just spend a lot of time in traveling. And so there's rapid moves. Right here is what, 204,000 millimeters, or about 34 minutes of just kind of moving. All right, so let's go back into that layer. Go to advanced, and we're going to turn flood fill on, and then go back to the preview. And now we're going to see that it got rid of those long moves. So instead of 204,000 millimeters, we're down to 12,500 millimeters. Instead of 30 some minutes, it's 3 minutes of travel. So it's still going to take some time. But it's now going to just kind of go back and forth and back and forth down a side, and then kind of the other side. So we could quickly kind of get that feeling of what it's going to do. So that removes a lot of movement time that was unneeded. Okay, so if you are shading things, definitely pay attention to the time of the job, and look at the transversal moves. And if you see a ton of red, this is probably bigger than it needs to be. Okay, so remember, fill, you can come into fill, advanced, and turn flood fill on, and then preview it again and see if that helps. But that's going to be all for this video, so I hope you learned some stuff and we have fun cutting things out on our engraver. All right.